Well, good morning. Welcome to our morning meditation. I'm the Reverend Dr. William L. Johnson III, palliative care chaplain at Christian Hospital Northeast here in St. Louis, Missouri. As always, we want to thank you for all that you do and all that you offer to us. And I want to send a special shout out to our administration here at the hospital for allowing us this privilege to be able to share these messages and making sure that they get out to you. It is a great joy of mine to be able to share these messages of encouragement and for inspiration because we are aware, as always, that we are journeying through life, sometimes up, sometimes down, sometimes struggling, but always moving forward. And so we're grateful for you. We want you to know that you are loved, you are appreciated, and you indeed are irreplaceable. And in these times and in this season of our lives, we often find ourselves wondering if we are making any headway, any progress, if we're really getting the job done, or if we're just spinning our wheels. Well, I want you to know that everything that you are and everything that you do has weight, and it is indeed a measure of who you are. And so we want to thank you for all that you do in your respective places in life, whether it's at home or whether it's on your job, in your career path, or whether it's with your neighbor, those that you meet at the supermarket around the corner, or those that you meet at the gas station as you're paying these exorbitant prices at the gas pump. Whatever it is, I want you to know that we survive together, we make it together, and we're striving together. And so I want to encourage you that someday we'll even thrive together, hopefully even now. Well, today's morning meditation is a fun one for me. I really enjoyed sharing this and preparing to talk about this with you today. And it has a strange title indeed, and it comes from a book that I learned about many years ago. May not have spoken about her, but she is a treasure to my life. My mother, who was also a minister, to believe it or not, often finds herself reflecting on her years as a school teacher. And she had a famous book. It was famous to me, one I had never read before, but one that I think I will enjoy for the rest of my life. A little book entitled Regina's Big Mistake. Regina's Big Mistake. And I want to tagline it or attach to it, making the most of your life. Uh, it is a wonderful story of a little girl who is in her class, who has an assignment in her art class to draw a jungle of some sort or whatever it is about nature that she was asked to draw along with her classmates. And as she sat there preparing herself for what she would write, she was in deep thought, wondering what it is that she would draw. She had crayons and all sorts of colors on her desk, a paper that was blank in front of her, and she had this wonderful moment of not knowing, like many of us, what it is that she would draw, not having a vision for it in her mind. She looked to her left and she saw her classmate busy away drawing their picture, looked to her right and saw another classmate drawing their picture, and she wondered whether or not she could copy theirs, but nothing came. And so she finally decided to pick up her crayon and put it to paper. And when she did, she started drawing these shapes, wanted to draw a flower, and in doing so drew one leaf, and then decided to draw another one, but it didn't come out quite right. And so she's tried to erase it, but you can't erase anything with crayons. And so she only made it worse. And so it was discolored. And so she decided to just crumble the paper up and toss it. Now, my mother's version of this story is get straight to the point. I'm going to go with my mom's version of the story, even though I read the book. My mom's version of the story says that she crumbled it up and threw the paper away. And as it was, went to her teacher for another sheet of paper in which her teacher told her, there are no other sheets of paper. You're going to have to make the most out of the one you had. And so Regina goes and pulls the paper out. This is my mom's version of this story. And she spreads it out, wrinkles and all, and gets it all pressed out on the page and starts over. And she starts to draw. And as she looks over to her left, one of her colleagues and classmates says, "Don't look at mine, don't copy mine." And another does the same thing. But she draws the most magnificent work with a lion in the jungle under a tree, with a jungle at night with not the sun, but the moon and stars. It was beautiful. Well, I didn't really want to come and tell you the entirety of that story, and I invite you to open up children's books. They really can teach you a lot. But Regina made a huge mistake, like many of us do in life. We start out trying to figure out what we would do and trying things out in life, and sometimes they just don't work out the way we planned. They don't work out the way we envisioned, and really we make a real bad mess of some things. But what do you do with the messiness of life? Do you crumble it up and throw it away as if you can get a new life, like a new piece of paper that someone is going to hand to you? What we've discovered is no, life doesn't work that way for us. We are not able to crumble up our lives, toss it in the wastebasket, and go and get another sheet to start over with. We have to press out the wrinkles of our current mistakes and our lives and all the ways in which we wish we could just do away and forget about those things. But sometimes we have the responsibility of pressing it out and making the most out of the life we're given. We know that in that life, the most miraculous things can happen. We discover that some of us have discovered that we didn't have plans to have our children when we did, but because of that, those children came out to bless our lives immensely for the rest of our lives. Some of us never thought that we would choose a career path, the one in which we're on, but we discovered that that which seemed like a mistake ends up becoming the greatest of miracles. And so it is with this story, like Regina's big mistake, we find ourselves trying to erase the mistakes of our lives, unsuccessfully, finding that life does not erase that easily. And sometimes we have to live with the mistakes we've made, but make the most out of them. And that's the point I want to make today. You're special. Remember, I'll open up in saying that you were loved, you are appreciated, and you are irreplaceable. And I mean that. I repeat that mantra every time we share one of these messages with you. Why? Because I am convinced that a life that seems like it's over is not really over. It is like Regina's big mistake. Get out your crayons and be creative with the life that you've been given, and you'll discover that these things are important. That the one who created you knew you would make some mistakes and offered you opportunities to make them. But when you make those mistakes, it is not the mistake that matters. It is what you do with it that matters. And that is what I love about Regina's big mistake. It is that what she does with it is what matters the most. Because what we often discover is that in those mistakes, our creator, I call that creator God, God shows us what God will do, first of all, for us. Yes, God will give us the sheet of paper and the crayons and the creative ability to do some things in our lives that we never thought were possible. You know, I grew up here in St. Louis, Missouri, and I've made a lot of mistakes in my life. I've gone places I probably shouldn't have gone, did things I probably shouldn't have done, and found out along the way that mistakes do happen and we have to live with them. But sometimes, more than likely, most times, if you use what God has given you and your creative gifts can make miracles and masterpieces out of those things which others thought were utterly destructive. You know, that's the way it is. God does things for us, sends us on a path that we never imagined we would travel, to meet people we never thought we would meet, to do things we never thought we would do. So God does things for us. But also in those moments when we make the most out of our lives, God also does things in us. It changes us. I can imagine that as Regina was sitting there trying to press out the wrinkles in her balled up sheet of paper, And as she decided to make waterfalls out of the wrinkles, and as she decided to do something with the sky, she discovered that what was going on the paper reflected what was inside of her. In other words, I'm sharing with you, it's important to mat out the paper of your life and write your own story. Not like anyone to your left or not like anyone to your right. Not like your neighbors, not like your brothers, not like your sisters, not like your coworkers. You are the only one that can create the masterpiece that you make. And that is the beauty of life. I love the fact that there's no one quite like me in all the world. And because of that, whatever I put my mind to, my heart to, my spirit to, God takes that and makes something out of it. But it is what is inside of me that is the beauty, that is the treasure of life. I've learned that even hardships can bring out the best of us. And it's not what happens to us that matters, it's what happens in us that matters the most. Well, last thing, I want to say to you that when we are making the most out of our lives, like Regina did in her big mistake, we discover that it's not only what God does for us and in us, but what God does through us that matters as well. It is that which God does through us that creates the miracle. Regina drew her beautiful picture, and everyone had to write their name on their sheet of paper at the bottom to claim what they had put on paper. And Regina was proud of it. She was. And it was said by her teacher that her work and her picture was the prettiest, most beautiful of all. Now, that's not to say that the others did not have beautiful pictures, but when you let your life work show up outside of you, it's amazing what God can do through you. Yes, so I want to encourage you. Yes, we are living in difficult times. And yes, there's violence everywhere, tragic violence that we just learned about. And there are moments in which it seems the world is revolving backwards and going into places that it breaks our heart to even imagine. But you're still you, and you are a better you now than you were yesterday, and a better you now than you'll ever be in years past. And I hope that you'll be better tomorrow than you are even today. What comes out of you and what comes through you is so important that when we touch other lives, like Regina, others can see the beauty of our life picture. It is that which inspires other people along the way. So I want to encourage you. Live out your life. And if you make a mistake like Regina, and if you made some, don't curse the mistakes. Don't rehearse the mistakes. Don't cry about the mistakes too long. Just recognize that now it's time to press out the paper of your life and use all of that creativity that God has given you. Put some color to it, some imagination to it, and you'll discover that your relationships will be better, your work will be better, your life will be better, because it indeed is a gift. Yes, people will critique your work and they'll say it's ugly and they may not have a taste for it, but it'll be your work. And somebody will think it's a masterpiece. Most importantly, the one who created you and gave you creative ability to join in that work will really be pleased with what you do with your life. Make the most of it. Thank you so much for all of your time today. Thank you for sharing with us in these morning meditations. They mean so much to me to be able to share with you. And I hope that you will click it and share it, and then be able to share it with friends and loved ones and those in whom you just encounter as strangers. Maybe perhaps they needed to know that they may have some big mistakes that they can recover from, just like Regina, just like you, and just like me. Have a great week and have a great day. Take care.